Hello everyone, how is it going? Today we have with us Jeremy Durant, business principal at Bob Design. Jeremy, how are you?
Excellent.
Well,
Thanks for the time. I'm looking forward to speaking with you.
well, it's lovely to have you, man. I mean, excited to talk to you today. Thank you for taking out time. But before we, start, it would be great if you could explain yourself and your company to the viewers.
Sure thing. So my name is Jeremy Durant. I'm the co-founder and business principal at Bob Design. We are a B2B marketing agency headquartered in San Diego, California. We rely solely on inbound marketing leads for all of our lead generation. So clients find us from all over the world. We are a small boutique 14-person agency, but we work with B2B clients from enterprise to startup to mid-market, from everywhere from Israel to New Zealand to Mexico to Canada. But the big thing for us is our B2B focus. So we're founded 11 years ago, and we were founded because we felt that B2B companies were sorely underserved in the marketplace. Most agencies want to work with the Nikes, the Pepsis, the Sonys of the world, big consumer brands. And if you're a small to mid-market to even enterprise level B2B company, they don't really have that much time for you. So really the first pillar of Bob Design is our B2B focus. The second pillar of Bob Design is lead generation. So my whole background is sales, and I wanted to start an agency that the sales team actually liked because we were helping them do their job more effectively. So, everything we do typically with Bob Design in terms of strategy is to tee it up for the sales team, to give the sales team the tools to nurture a lead from a general inquiry to a qualified prospect to a proposal stage to a committed long-term relationship. So, we want to help the sales team generate ideal client leads and give them the tools to nurture that lead along to a closed relationship.
Right. Well, you are a lead gen expert, and you have been in sales for a long time now, more than 15 years. For your own agency, you said that you rely on inbound leads. But talking about lead gen strategies, what are the most successful strategies that work or have worked best for your own agency?
Yeah. So in general, content marketing leading to on-page and off-page SEO strategies are really the best way to generate leads. Now that's a longer term play than, let's say, paid search or paid social media. But in general, with most clients, when you look at the best leads that come in, the highest quality leads and highest quantity leads are typically organic. However, when you're first starting out, or even if you're a well-established company, but you haven't really focused on-page and off-page SEO efforts, it's going to take some time. It's not like you just turn it on and the leads are coming in. But in general, if you're generating high-quality content that is useful and resonates with your target market and is keyword rich, and you're consistently blogging each month, and then looking for backlinking opportunities with guest blogging, influencers, things like that, that's going to help in terms of bringing in the right types of leads. So number one lead gen tactic, or the highest, when we go through our reporting every single month with any particular client, organic is where the bulk of the leads are coming from.
Right. Jeremy, what is your thoughts on cold calling? I mean, you see any future of cold calling? Because I know a lot of people still rely on it.
That's interesting. Yeah. So we actually have clients that develop software for cold calling, scripting, smart calling, things like that. There's still a place for it. It is receding over time. I mean, most people now never answer their phone, and it's more voicemails more than anything. cold calling can work, but it needs to be part of an overall strategy. So typically what you want to be doing is make that part of, one tactic of, 3 to 4 tactics to make a strategy. So if you can combine cold calling with direct mail, with email, with, social media marketing, with retargeting, that can work. And typically you're still going to just leave a voicemail that probably, 99% of the time gets deleted without being listened to all the way. But if you're hitting the right person at the right time when they're in a buying stage, they may be receptive. They're probably not going to commit to something in that cold call, but that cold call with an email, with a direct mail piece, they may finally commit to a call via email, and there you go. So it needs to be combined with a couple other tactics to make it effective, but typically it's more of a complementary strategy that cannot stand on its own. It needs to be part of, typically I like to say email, call, direct mail, email, call, direct mail. Essentially where you keep hitting them in a couple different ways and get to a yes or a no quickly.
Right. I think also it depends on the industry. People dealing with small businesses where, data is possible, because also a problem is the data. It's not always possible to get direct numbers. You normally get board numbers, and then, it's very difficult to find people there. And at the end of the day, it's a cold call. So I think mainly, people or businesses dealing, agencies dealing with small businesses where you can actually get direct mobile numbers, maybe that might still work. But you're right, email and call combination is something which I have also seen work. Maybe you just call those people who have opened your email, or even if you're tracking it well, just try calling them as soon as they have opened it. Sometimes that also works well. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean,
that's a really good point. Everything. And then industry-wise, like we do have B2B clients that, essentially are targeting businesses like wineries. Like we have a client that's software for winemakers that really are not going to be in front of a computer that often, but they're going to have their cell phone on them, or at least the office phone. We have B2B clients that target more manufacturing or industrial, or farming, things like that. That's going to be, again, where cold calling can be much more effective. So you raise a really good point there, that it's going to be more effective for people that are not at a desk 6 hours a day.
Right. And also, what about email marketing? I mean, do you still use email marketing for your own agency to get more leads?
Yeah, so we do no outbound lead gen at all anymore. We rely solely, again, on inbound, but we do use email as a lead nurturing tool. So email, again, so we send out a monthly email newsletter. Typically, it's repurposing our blog content. It's driving people back to our blog content, showcasing new projects. We send it out once a month, and we get a project every single time. So I always say on email, if you're just doing a regular email newsletter, it's the least you can do from a lead nurturing standpoint. It's a great upsell, cross-sell tactic, really to stay in front of prospects, current clients, and past clients, to remind people that you're there. That's what we utilize it for. Now, again, email as a lead gen tool can work, but it has to be part of a full kind of drip campaign strategy, just like cold calling. If you're doing an email lead gen campaign, it needs to be really paired with cold calling. So I would never do cold calling on its own. I would never do email marketing on its own. But together, those two can be effective, and especially if you start utilizing direct mail. I am a business owner, and I don't get that much direct mail anymore. I think people don't do it because there's a perception either it doesn't work or it's super expensive, and it's a lot less expensive to call or email. But the beauty of direct mail now is there's just not that much clutter anymore. There's not that much noise in direct mail. So if you can utilize, and you know, really what you want to do in a direct mail piece, you want to have something that you really want to utilize as a content marketing platform. So you want to, instead of just mail out a postcard or a letter, you know, design something that's a white paper, a guide, something that's useful. You know, typically pair that with a promo marketing item of some sort that's useful, that may tie in the message that you have in that guide or white paper. Print that, pair that with calling and emailing. That's going to help in terms of making your whole, you know, lead gen outbound strategy more effective.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, that kind of a direct email would also stand out. I was sitting with one of my clients last year, uh, and I realized, he had some direct mails which had come in, and there he showed me a letter which an agency had sent, and it was a very beautiful handwritten letter. It stood out. I mean, somebody taking out time during these days and actually writing a letter with hand. I mean, he actually
Yep.
looked at it, he actually read through it, rather than just thinking of it as a sales pitch. And obviously, I mean, if there was value in there, he definitely would have called them. I never followed up to ask whether he called them back or not, but I remember him actually taking out time and going through the entire piece.
Exactly. Yeah, people, you know, we got to remember that, you know, any customer, any, you know, member of your target audience, any human being in general is inherently self-centered. They're only going to read something if there's something in it for them, or if they feel very tailored or catered to. So, you know, personalized letter, a, you know, message that's very much personalized to that particular person's situation, pain points, priorities, that's going to resonate a lot more than just some boilerplate message.
Right, right, absolutely. Also, Jeremy, I mean, what are your thoughts, or how do you suggest for an agency to market during these uncertain times?
It's really difficult right now because most people, you know, especially with outbound, we have clients that rely primarily on outbound, and I've gotten emails that in the title it's like nobody's home, because guess what? No one's working in their office. And we'll just talk about the United States here. You know, as of right now, most states are in lockdown. You're not really supposed to be in the office unless you're an essential worker. So it's a much different time. This is where inbound, we have a lot of clients that have actually been relied solely on outbound that all of a sudden have had to pivot now and become much more inbound oriented. What I would look at right now is I would, you know, hopefully this is going to start opening up again, you know, in terms of, you know, states opening up and business getting a little bit back to normal. But I would focus right now, if you're on marketing, and I hate to be a little less optimistic, I would not look at short-term wins, but look at kind of your long-term strategy. Look at, you know, we're actually bidding out work right now with particular clients that, you know, it's more about, hey, let's work on your page speed with your website. Let's refresh SEO, more long-term, you know, things that need to be done, that they have the time and energy and maybe some money to actually focus on that right now. So it's funny, our website business is very healthy. The ongoing kind of more tactical marketing is not, I mean, it's still okay, but it's not as healthy as it has been, just because that's more lead gen focused and immediate lead gen versus websites and rebrands that are a little bit more long term. The websites are, you know, I really right now in terms of marketing, this is an opportunity where it's a little slower to focus on those long-term objectives you have of things that need to get done, that now you have the time, energy, you know, hopefully you have the energy. I know it's a tiring time right now, but hopefully you have the time to devote to that right now in terms of long-term.
Right, right. Also, I think as agencies, this is a perfect time to reevaluate and focus on our own content strategies. What is your process of implementing a successful content strategy?
Yep. So content strategy, typically for Bop Design and the way we do it for ourselves and for our clients, the foundation is the keyword strategy. So what you need to do, typically that's already been solidified from the on-page SEO. Typically most clients that are working with us, we design their website and launch their website. Now they're going on to an ongoing content strategy. So you have that foundational keyword strategy, focused on buying terms that you want to generate content for. The backbone of any content strategy, obviously, is an editorial calendar. What you need to do is put together an editorial calendar for your blog. Typically, we have an infographic even on our website and in our proposals, but the centerpiece of the content strategy is the blog. And what you're doing is repurposing, cross-promoting blog content on various channels and platforms to get as much mileage and visibility out of it as possible. So the editorial calendar, typically what you're doing, most of our clients on a blogging scale are typically blogging 2 to 4 times a month. And what you have is in a month, you have 4 topics that you're going, that you're going to write about, corresponding keywords that you're going to be that are going to be part of that blog. And then, essentially interviewing internal subject matter experts with, about that topic, making sure there's, the keywords are in, target keyword is each in one of those blogs. And first, you got to get it up on the website, promote it that way, in terms of in your blog and optimize it. Secondly, if there's a rhyme and reason to the blogs that you're creating, you want to, typically there's various themes or, topics, typically with our clients and Bop Design itself, what you're doing is every month or two packaging blog content together and designing a more premium content piece around. So that could be a guide, a white paper, a case study, that now you have a piece that not only you can utilize on your website as a conversion tool, but as a retargeting tool too. So I always say with, studies have shown that typically it takes at least 6 visits to a website before a B2B decision maker initially converts. So, you spend all this time, money, resources getting people to the website the first time. You do not want to be forgotten about. So when somebody visits the website, bounces off, you want to be retargeting them on, various websites. Retargeting works exponentially more effectively when you're targeting with content, when you're not just targeting with a branded message, but, based on their behavior on the site. Hey, somebody's evaluating, an accounting firm, let's say. They go to this accounting firm's website and then they bounce off and then they're retargeted with a buyer's guide on selecting the right accounting firm for a manufacturing company or a construction company, depending on, the pages they've visited. That's going to help in terms of getting more engagement that way. So to answer your question, with content and the key to it, editorial calendar, blog is the centerpiece, and then repurposing that blog content for everything from email marketing to social media to retargeting. If something's newsworthy as a press release, you could retarget some of that blog, repurpose some of that blog content as a press release. That's going to help in terms of getting as much mileage out of your content, building brand visibility, and then in turn, hopefully generating more leads through your website.
Right, absolutely. I think, talking about retargeting and content, you said a very important point that, a person needs to be shown your content again and again so that he doesn't forget you, because he won't just buy from you for, first time. It's also very important how you are, how you're tracking it, because, you want to show a different message to a person at a different stage of the buyer journey as compared to another person. So I think, tracking is very important, just to add to what you said. And if you're able to do that well, and now there are so many tools available, where you can actually even see the performance of your blog content, or and see which parts of the content people are viewing more or viewing less. But yeah, definitely, I think content marketing is the key, but tracking it would just add to the value you're trying to create.
Exactly. Exactly. And then, yeah, you raised a really good point there of content for every stage of the buying process. You have the buyer's guides, then you may have a case study, like, for every level of the funnel. So not only about, you have your keyword strategy that, is dictating blog content, but then you also want to think of the sales and marketing funnel and what, from inquiry to proposal stage to decision, what content is going to resonate? What's the content that's going to be needed to build that case of credibility? So yeah, definitely having that content for all levels of the funnel is critical.
Right, right. Also, Jeremy, talking about sales again, from your experience, what do you think are the main things that salespeople get wrong? I'm talking, from an agency point of view.
Could you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
No problem. So I'm saying from your experience, talking about sales, what do you think are the main things that salespeople get wrong? I'm talking about from an agency point of view.
Yep. So number one problem that most salespeople have is they don't ask enough questions up front. And really truly understanding, they kind of just come in and start talking and not listening and really aren't even asking the questions they need to ask. So really that first conversation you have with a prospective client, it needs to be 80% the prospect talking. It should not be 80% the salesperson talking. And salespeople tend to be more extroverts and tend to like to talk, and sometimes their biggest weakness is listening. And that even is me. I mean, I'm not the best listener, but if you start with questions, like I try to, you're asking a lot of questions about, objectives, pain points, buying process, that will help you kind of cater your solution a lot more than coming in with a, off-the-shelf solution to begin with. And I think a lot of salespeople want to prove themselves too quickly. I'd rather prove, it's better for a salesperson to prove themselves based on the answers, basically kind of cater that proof to the answers that they've discovered through that series of questions. So I think number one, you have to ask many questions up front, and that's going to help in terms of catering your solution to that particular prospect and allow you to win more deals versus just an off-the-shelf kind of boilerplate solution for everyone.
Right, right, absolutely. Also, I think from an agency point of view, I have seen a lot of salespeople, not setting the right expectations. So, I mean, I think that also happens because they don't listen, right? I mean, they're just trying to make their pitch, which they're used to, and they don't listen properly about what actually the client wants. And, at the end of the day, even if, right, you said, they won't close as many deals as they would have if they would have listened and asked proper questions. But at the same time, even if they have closed some deals, some of them might not last long term as clients because the expectations has not been set right.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of salespeople are way too concerned about it. I mean, you got to hit your quota, or you got to make a commission. That's how you make a living. But there's a lot of over-promising, under-delivering, and yeah, that may help in the short term, but it's not going to help your brand in the long term. So you want to set expectations right. We lose deals at times because we want to, I typically rather manage expectations, and I tend to under-promise, over-deliver, and we'll lose the deal. Now, it helps that I'm also the business owner, and I'm going to be with BOF Design probably the remainder of my career. So I really care about a reputation, and I don't want to take on a project where I set the wrong expectations up front and the client's going to be, yeah, we may have made some money, but the client's not going to be happy, and I may get a bad review or whatever. I want to, if you want to be sustainable and build a long-term brand, you have to live up to your promises. So yeah, definitely managing expectations is very important, from a timeline standpoint to a deliverable standpoint to a pricing standpoint. The last thing you ever want is clients to feel baited and switched. So we pride ourselves. We're proud to say that we're according to Clutch, which is the kind of Yelp for professional services marketing agencies. We're the #1 ranked web design agency in the U.S. and I think actually in the world too. And I think that's partly because we're disciplined with the projects we take on, and we're disciplined with managing expectations up front, so the clients know what they're getting into. And we try to only take on projects and clients that we're 99% certain the client's going to be very happy with the end result.
Right. You talked about, like relying on inbound leads, and, most of your leads now are inbound. I mean, as a company, or, talking about you, how do you handle an inbound lead? I mean, what is your sales process?
Yep. So #1, you actually you got to balance selling and qualifying. So typically with inbound leads, hopefully your website's helping in terms of self-qualifying and self-disqualifying certain prospects, but a lot of times that's not going to be the full case. So typically you want, in terms of, before you ever have any sort of sales discussion, there needs to be a process up front that you're qualifying them. You don't want to be, you don't want you don't want the hand up immediately, like, no, you got to balance the kind of the negative questions with the positive. So we tend to, when we qualify, we want to qualify based on expectations from a prospect. Do they fit our budget? Do they have the same expectations in terms of budget as we do? Do they have the same expectations in terms of timeline as we do? Do they fit our, in terms of, are they B2B? Do they have the right type of project for us? At the same time, when we're doing that, we're also building a case of credibility with our content. So we typically qualifying them, in terms of their expectations, but at the same time, hey, here's some projects that are very similar to what you're, looking to do. Here's our buyer's guide on, selecting the right web design agency. So you want to balance because sometimes you'll get to, as a customer in almost, anything you're buying, sometimes you'll reach out and all there is qualifying questions. And it can turn off people a little bit where it's a little too exclusive. So what you want is the inclusivity and the exclusivity in one communication. So, and #1, so you want to qualify them there. Then next is you want to have an intake call or, some sort of intake discussion where you're going through, you're past the qualifying questions now. You're asking questions about marketing objectives, about target audience, about their lead generation process now. And you're interviewing, as a salesperson, you're interviewing that prospect as much as they're interviewing you. There's that balance. And that first call is typically 80%, if you're doing a good job as a salesperson, 80% of you asking questions to that prospect. And then because you've asked the right questions up front, then the follow-up conversation, which is typically some sort of preliminary proposal call, some sort of solution, that's where you're talking 80% of the time with a catered solution based on the answers in that first call. But what you want to be doing through that entire process in terms of intake, qualifying, sales discussion, proposal, is utilizing thought leadership content all the way through to build that case of credibility so that prospect has the peace of mind, confidence, they know that you can do the job better than alternatives, competitors, et cetera. So you really want to be utilizing questions and catering the discussion based on the client's pain points, what their objectives are, need payout, et cetera, from whatever, the reason they're talking to you to begin with that project.
Right. Also, what are your thoughts on account-based marketing? I mean, who should focus on account-based marketing?
So really, account-based marketing has been around, really it's just a new buzz term that, is just kind of a new, it's just a way, really what you're trying to do is personalize and cater to a particular, it's almost like a mindset in a way that you're basing your marketing strategy on a specific set of accounts that you want to go after. So, you may have, we have clients that here's our wish list of the 50 companies that we want to go after in 2020. And what you want to do is then put together a tailored campaign for each one of them that's very much personalized to their particular industry, to the particular economic climate with that particular company, financial climate. So, really this has been around. Really this should be a way that people have been thinking for a long time. It does help now that, a lot of the account-based marketing messaging you'll be targeted with, not account-based marketing, that the reason I think it's a little bit more in the vernacular now than it used to be is, or, there was not even that buzz term before, is because there's a lot of software technology platforms that help target those accounts. Though that is, we've utilized some of those platforms and software with mixed results. But really what you want to do, especially with, typically it's more on the B2B side that account-based marketing is utilized, obviously. Really it's just a mindset of working back from specific target accounts, thinking of what their current situation is, what their industry is, what their financial situation is, who are the buyers, the influencers, et cetera, and from there, catering your approach. But that's really what account-based marketing is, and it's been around, no different than we now call inbound primarily because HubSpot came up with inbound, but really that's pull marketing, versus push marketing, outbound, inbound, pull, push, same kind of ideas. And, really, it's just really about tailoring an approach based on target accounts.
Right. I really believe LinkedIn is a solid, marketing and lead gen tool. How do you leverage LinkedIn for your agency?
We primarily use LinkedIn, for Boss Design and for our accounts, primarily with the sponsored updates. We utilize paid search on Google, what I call more needs-based marketing. People have a particular need, they're searching for it, but they may not always fit your ideal client, ideal client profile. Meanwhile, on LinkedIn, it's much more account-based marketing, as we talk, just talking about, it's very much about people that fit your ideal client exactly, but they may not be in a buying stage. They may not even know that they need you yet. But I love with LinkedIn how granular and niche you can be in terms of, going after, you can go after, the beauty of with LinkedIn, when we talk about account-based marketing, you can go after a set, of 25, 50, 100 specific companies you want to go after and titles at that specific company. You can get very narrow. We find that LinkedIn, we tend to disagree with LinkedIn reps where, they want to cast the net fairly wide. We find that it's better to have smaller, more granular targeting on LinkedIn with specific, where you need to be patient because you're not going to get a lot of clicks and a lot of visits overnight, but over a 30-day period, over a 60-day period, they can be very successful. And setting up very narrow, targeted, where maybe you're only going after, 20,000, 25,000 potential people on LinkedIn, decision makers, those tend to be much more successful campaigns because they tend, again, working back from that account-based marketing perspective, they tend to be much more narrow and speaking to specific accounts, very specific objectives. But we find tremendous success with LinkedIn.
Right, right. I agree. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much, for your time. I know we have limited time, but before you go, one question which I would want to ask you is what do you see working best for B2B marketing in 2020?
Not to beat a dead horse here, but inbound is going to be, now people are going to be more elusive than ever with outbound. And outbound will still have a place in 2021. But right now, when you look at outbound, any outbound type of tactics, calling, email a little bit better, but direct mail, you can't find these people right now because they're not at their offices, and who knows when they're going to be steady at their office, Monday through Friday during the work week, in the future. It could be 6 months from now, it could be 3 months from now, it could be 18 months from now. So inbound is going to take a much more prominent role. The trade shows are another thing that probably aren't going to be around for a while, any sort of in-person networking. So things are going to get a little bit more digital. I think I'm curious to see if that's just going to be over this next, phase, 2020 and beyond that, 2020 and, 18 months or whatever, or if that's just going to be, all of a sudden how things, it kind of sticks and stays that way. So, but I will say for 2020, to answer your question, it's going to be all on digital marketing, inbound. Your website's actually going to be more important than ever as your 24/7 sales tool because there's just not going to be as much face-to-face interaction. There'll be face-to-face interaction on digital platforms like Zoom, like we're doing now. But, really it's going to be, people performing searches, not relying as much on, their networking, even phone, it's even hard to get people on the phone anymore, in terms of even talking to them and getting referrals and recommendations that way. It's going to be much more website, social media marketing, email, anything digital. That's where everything's going to be going.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jeremy. I mean, it was great talking to you, and I wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll talk to you again.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, and let's hope that 2020 can be a success, in spite of everything going on, and, we can come out of this stronger than ever.
Yeah, I hope the same, man. You take care.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.